All right, hey everybody, and welcome to Chiustream, where we talk about art and life as an artist. I'm your host, Bobby Chu, and today we have, like usual, these are interactive. We can answer your questions if you go to slido.com, hashtag Chiustream. You could ask your questions there and you could vote them up as well. If you don't have any questions, you can read the other questions that other people have and vote them up and see which ones you want to get answered first. Okay, and the other thing that I wanted to mention is what was the other thing I want to mention, Matt? I forget. Oh, I want to mention
Oh.
Matt. I got my buddy Matt on here, Matt Johnson on
Uh,
here. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
it's going pretty good, Bobby. I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
I was just saying that this week, I was saying that this week, at first, I was saying, wow, I am so organized this week. I got here right on time, nice and early, and yet, scrambling in the end. Oh my goodness, scrambling in the end because there's just so many things that I
There's so
want to
much.
mention. Um, the okay, so here's a couple things I want to mention. I said a couple streams ago this little lovely success story about this person that emailed in and was talking about his children getting a subscription to schoolism. He lives in a country where um, education isn't actually affordable for everybody, and some people couldn't get education, but because of schoolism, he was able to take out a loan, get education for his kids, and then this email was telling us that the second year of schoolism subscriptions, his kids are actually paying for it himself. I thought that was such a wonderful story. So I asked the people out there, do you have any success stories of your own that you could share with us about how schoolism has changed your lives? I know over the years we've gotten a lot of them. And so today I want to share one with you because we did get some really great ones. And I want to share this one with Joel Santana. This is from Joel Santana. Okay, so let me see here. Let me put on a little image of Joel Santana to give him a little plug. Hey, Bobby, just wanted to share my story with you. So I've been with Schoolism for a couple years now. I've done both the live feedback and the self-guided, the subscription. I will say that a little less than 2 years ago, I took Sam Nielsen's lighting for story and concept art, and I feel like I noticed a huge difference in my work and understanding of color and light. Well, I continue to apply my learning hardcore and also continue to do the self-guided courses, and I noticed that quality artists started following me on social media. And to me, even one really talented artist following me means more than 50 regular people, if that makes sense. It actually does. Uh, and other people, companies as well, started to notice me. Well, long story short, even Wacom noticed me at New York City Comic Con and
Wow.
asked me to partner with them on social reviewing products, etc. Fast forward to today. Excuse me, sorry. Fast forward to today. Wacom emailed me saying how happy they were with all my reviews, painting, drawing, videos, etc., and the work I've created. They've decided to also gift me a 32-inch Cintiq with an awesome stand.
What?
I was blown away. Wow, now I'm
Whoa.
jealous. 32 inches. That's like a desk. I would love to get one of those Cintiqs. Anyways, I literally got emotional because, again, I felt like the people started to see something in me that I felt people didn't see before. I immediately thought of schoolism because about 75% of my learning is via schoolism, live classes, the subscription, YouTube interviews, tips, etc. You guys have had such an impact on me since way back when I read Bobby's book, The Perfect Bait. I appreciate you so much. I'm over the moon at the moment, and it's a huge thanks to you. Thank you, my friends. Well, thank you to you too, Joel
Wow.
Santana, for sharing your wonderful success story with us. It's super encouraging. This is exactly why we do these things. This is exactly why I get on the streams and.
That's so cool. And it's cool you explain the steps. You explain how, you start noticing followers and then one small thing leads to another big thing. That's awesome.
I
Such a
never
cool
really
story.
thought about that. The whole entire thing of like how much it must mean to somebody once they start to see some quality artists, some
Yeah.
well-known artists starting to follow them. But that makes perfect sense. Wonderful to hear. Now, the other thing I want to do today was, today's stream is advice for students, or shall I
Mm,
just kind of reframe that and just say beginner artists as well? Can we include them as well?
good idea.
Okay, so and actually, before I get to that, I want to mention what you're seeing on screen here. This is special because on screen here, usually what people do when they're doing painting videos is that they paint a whole long time and then they speed it up and then they, play it all sped up and you're like, wow, this person's so awesome. So I want to kind of show you what it's like to just paint. And so this is real time painting here, everybody. You can watch me struggle. You can paint along with me. Put a little still life in front of you, start painting it with me in these streams. All right. So, advice for students or people starting off. Here we go. First one is avoid bubbles. What does this mean? It means, a lot of times when we're in a studio or we're in a class or school, the people that we compare ourselves to, the only people that really matter in our lives, in terms of other artists, are the people that we surround ourselves with. But what if you're not in an environment with really, really challenging artists, people that really push you to the brink, people that really push you to your potential? Then you'll never find out your potential. We do kind of live in a big bubble, which is the art community. Take a look at the whole entire art community. Take a look at the people that have gone before us, laid the foundation before us. History has a really wonderful way, not always accurate, but a pretty good way of filtering out what really matters, right? And or filtering out the things that don't really matter, and the people that might not matter as much, and it kind of leaves the people that you should really, really care about. That's a very blanket statement. It's a very general statement, but it is kind of true generally. Okay? So there you go. Next one on the list here is number 2. This is something I do, but I wish I did as a student. Now, let's turn the clock back, Matt.
Okay.
Let's talk about when you had your first job, uh, in college,
Hmm.
perhaps, or maybe just out of college, right?
Okay.
And think about how much you were making. You don't need to say it,
Mm-hmm.
but then think about how much you make now. Now,
Mm-hmm.
back then, you were used to how much you were making. You were surviving. You weren't starving.
Right.
Then you got your first raise. Then you get your second raise, so on and so forth. And what I'm saying with this second point is save half of every raise from now on. Pretend it
Hmm.
doesn't exist. You're already doing fine without it. This is something that I do now, but I wish I did it when I was a student because, I'm already, I'm comfortable. I'm doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I would be really, really, really doing well
Yeah.
if I saved half of every raise I got from when I was in college. Imagine if
Man.
you did that, right?
If I did that, I'm 36 years old. If I did that, I'd already have retirement probably, just ready to go. A
Imagine
good
you
chunk of it.
invested it.
Yeah, for sure.
Imagine, like now, I invest and things like that because, it's if you put your money in the bank, um, it just kind of sits there and depreciates as inflation slowly starts
Mm-hmm.
happening, right? But if you get it to work for you, yeah, you could lose a little bit, but in general, time is a super, super powerful thing, right? And even depressions and recessions, we recover. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're a young, go getter out of college, just starting off your life, it's all good. You can afford to invest because you got the time. All right, next one here is principles, goals. This is something that I feel like generally a lot of people they don't really think about. They don't a lot of people they might have goals. Maybe. Yeah. But then what are their principles? What are things that they would never cross the line, that they would always kind of adhere to, things that create your character, right? And these kind of things is what builds trust, builds builds connection with people. People can respect you more, and these are interesting. These are very important things to lay down as well. So one of my principles is that family is super important to me. So we dropped a lot of things for family. Now that might not be the principle that everybody wants to have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is very much just my own personal principles. Another one is if I don't like the project, it doesn't matter if they want to pay me $1 million for it. If I don't like it, I shouldn't take it.
Wow.
That one is a tough one. But yeah, you gotta lay down these laws.
That's
You
very
know,
good.
goals. Of course, you're gonna want to have goals. A lot of times when we don't have goals, what we do is we let life kind of uh, steer you wherever it's gonna steer you, and that can be very dangerous, right?
Mm.
You want to get that goal of getting down the river, not getting stuck between two rocks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you just let life just kind of guide you, eventually, most likely, you're going to get probably stuck between two rocks, like what I was just saying. So, my goals, for me, I have many different goals, but one at a time. One of my big goals was to bring affordable education to everybody. That's through schools. Now, another big goal is to unite the artistic community, which is
Whoop,
going to
whoop.
be Lightbox Expo. That is going to be amazing. So, have some goals. Have some big goals. If that was one tip, one thing I could tell my younger self is to have big, stinking goals because
Yeah.
hardly any of us are running at our potential. And pretty much all of us can agree if you are running at your potential, you can accomplish almost any one of your dreams, unless it's something ridiculous like I want to be a fish. Uh, we're not talking about that. We're talking about realistic dreams. Okay,
Before you go on to the next one,
sure.
I want to ask you, do you feel like part of that with goals is saying yes to too many things at a young age and maybe overextending yourself? Did that happen for you?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a really great one. We have all this ambition in the beginning. A lot of times we just kind of jump on stuff and we're like, yes, yeah, I could do that. And then you get caught up and you're like, oh man, I can't believe I just started this thing. It's not going to be good. So love that. And yeah, great, great add-on there. So next one here is do it now, don't wait. Now, what did I mean by this when I wrote it down? Um, Sometimes when I'm talking with students or beginner artists, they might complain, you know, and justifiably. How come nobody gives me a chance for this thing? I could totally do it. I could totally rock it. I could be a character designer if somebody just gave me a chance. Well, this is me telling you, here's your chance. Go, do it. You don't have to wait for anybody. The other thing is, as an employer of people, how do I know when, how do I know if I gave that person this extra role, this promotion to do these extra duties and stuff, that that person's going to be able to do it? I don't
Mm,
know, right? If you think about that, you're the boss, you want to tell somebody, I want to promote you to this, and now you're going to give them a bunch more money and a bunch more responsibility, and you don't know if they're going to do it. Where they are now, they're doing great. Now, you don't want to screw that up. You don't want to give them a promotion, give them a bunch of money, and then say, oh, it's not working. Because things will not be able to go back to the way that they were.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so best thing to do, show the boss, show whoever that you can do it and do it now. Do it by yourself. Don't ask for permission. Just start doing it on your off time. In the beginning, yeah, you will have to use your off time a lot more because you got some stuff to prove, some things that you got to show that you can do. All right, last one here. Keep learning. This one is one that thank goodness I kept because I didn't come out of the gate just this glowing super monster artist, just tackling everything and killing it. No, I kind of, I didn't like how I painted and drew. I still have a long way to go, but thank goodness that I always scheduled in time to learn because that has played the biggest difference in my career, I feel, than most others. All right. Well, you also have one too, right, Matt?
Yeah, yeah, I do actually. And I just wanted you to know, Bobby, I adjusted my microphone audio a little bit based on what was being said in the chat. So I made mine a little bit louder. People are saying that it was still too quiet on both. I didn't realize my microphone was so low.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So if that doesn't work for anybody, let us know. We'll figure something out. Yeah, I was gonna add to that. Like my uh, biggest thing that I wish that I had done when I was in college was like enjoy where you're at in the process, because where you're at in the process, you don't want to resent this part of it, because you're as a student, you're there to experiment, you're there to figure out ways to do things that you don't know how to do already, or maybe if you want to try 3D modeling, or you want to try uh, traditional art instead of digital art, or you want to try a new piece of software altogether. Like, try these things, but don't be frustrated because you don't necessarily know what to do. In this day and age, it's really easy to get caught up in the extremely large pool of opportunities and places you can go and things you can do. But being a student is where you get your bearings, you find what interests you. And it's true of people that aren't young too. I'm glad you said that about beginning artists earlier, Bobby, because I talk to people who are in their late 30s, early 40s, starting out, and they're having the same frustrations as college students or students who are starting in their early 20s. And it doesn't matter really, because I feel like 90% of the artists that become successful follow this path of struggling and experimenting when they're young or new to it, and then as they get older or get more mature in their craft, they kind of calm that part down and find their niche a little bit. So my tip is to just be comfortable where you are, enjoy the ride, because the ride's really all there is. Yeah.
I really like that. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, I forget where I was watching this, but I was watching this martial arts practice happen, right? And it was like the person just kept saying, "Your face, your face," and it meant to it meant to tell the person, "Relax your face. Don't get that scrunchy, kind of face in there, right?" You don't want to kind of I guess you don't want to show the other person perhaps that, like that effort kind of face.
Okay.
Um, Anyhow, the whole entire thing was it was like you're calmly working your hardest. That's what it kind of seemed like.
Calmly
Kind of like
working
he
your hardest.
wanted everybody to calmly work their hardest, with this very calm face. And that I feel is a huge kind of, I don't know, it complements what you're saying. I remember
Yeah.
like working super hard and not really enjoying myself. And
Oh
now
yeah.
I enjoy every day, but I work super hard.
I bet you do. And you also didn't find a magical shortcut. You didn't, like, I'm sure that you identify all the time with other artists that you went through the same things that they went through. You don't look at their journey and say, wow, it was so easy for you. I should have done this and saved so much time in school. Like, those time saving things might be little tricks and little tools and techniques, but they don't, like, propel your career forward. So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times they say if you're too hyped up, if you're too excited, you burn out way quicker too.
Mm, yeah.
Right? And that seems to be like the thing that I saw the most when I was kind of really observing or studying people that were older than me. They were
Okay.
they were able to use their energy way more efficiently. So
Yeah,
like
I can see that.
I'm putting in way more effort, way more time. I remember this especially like when I was beginning or when I was a student, I put in way more time, way more effort, yet I'm getting the same done or maybe even less. I remember an older student that was in my year. Uh, Shoot, I can't remember his name at this moment, but married with kids and did a buttload of work, more than most of the single students with no kids did, because of how they use their time. So
Mm,
there you go.
perfect.
And since we're talking about learning so much, let me just put in this little plug if you don't mind. Spring sale. All right. Schoolism only has 2 spring sales a year. Or, sorry, only one spring sale a year, but maybe 2 sales in a whole entire year in total. Uh, and this is a great one. First, you can get a Schoolism subscription for $300 for an entire year of education. And this means that you can, with one subscription, you get to take all the classes, do all the assignments. It's limitless. Well, this spring sale gives you the opportunity to get the subscriptions for $100 off the regular price, which brings it down to about $200, 1/3 off. Don't miss out. There's less than 1 week left. Less than 1 week left. Get that $200 subscription on Schoolism. And let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments, which classes have you taken? I would love to know. Um, Also, I want to mention a couple things since we're on announcements. Toronto workshop happening June 15th to 16th. This is going to be a great one. Three Pixar story artists that all worked on Incredibles 2 coming to Toronto to teach story. That's going to be fantastic. After that, I'm going to
Wow.
Copenhagen, June 22nd, 23rd. That's going to be great. Shannon Tyndall, Megan Brain, Iris Compete, Victoria Ying, Alex Konstad, and Paul Lazane from Into the Spider-Verse. That's going to be awesome. Paul's going to be
Yeah.
doing some Into the Spider-Verse style paintings as well. So looking forward to that. And then Dublin. Dublin is going to be November 9th to 10th. Luis Gonzalez from Pixar, Daniel Arriaga, Annie Winner from art directing Coco, John Hardesty, Tuna Bora, Robert Valley, some of my favorite people. So look out for that, and that's on schoolism.com. You could get tickets.
Sounds like an awesome time.
All right. So as I've been talking and talking, we've been having a lot of really great questions. So why don't we go to the
Yeah.
questions? You want to do that?
We do have some good questions over here. I'm really glad about that. We got some unique questions on here, guys. Thank you. Lan or Lon, I'm sorry, asks, how should an artist start researching for a project and how long should they spend researching? Also, do you have any tips for staying on track of the project?
How long should an artist start researching, or
Hmm.
how should an artist start researching for a project?
And how long?
Yes,
Right.
and how long? Generally, I try to do a day, and
Wow, only a day? I thought you'd say a little longer than that because you do a lot of studying. You do a lot of background work.
yes. So research means like I'm not even painting. That's what I'm saying.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so taking a whole entire day and having nothing to really show for it, that's quite a while when you're doing freelance, especially when
That's
you're doing
true.
freelance. Some people, they're looking at you like, okay, what did I pay for today? Let's see what you did. And I'll be like, nothing. It's all in my head. I'm looking for an idea. I didn't find one. Um, and this, you know what? I was interviewing, I was interviewing somebody, Nicholas Cole. I believe I was interviewing, and we were talking about freelance, and I was saying to him that I don't actually charge for that, for the research generally, because I try to get the script and get a day ahead of time before the project to do that. Now I got a lot of backlash on that, which I
Hmm.
totally understand. I totally agree with what everybody was saying. You got to charge for that day. You got to charge for that day. Um, but I do feel like at a certain level, once you start charging a certain amount, which I definitely do, when you get to that level, you don't need to charge them for an extra day, because um, it's not like they're getting a bargain for you.
Right.
Yeah, so that was something I just wanted to kind of mention because, and hopefully everybody will have the opportunity to get to, that kind of level or whatever. But that's why I don't charge for the research day. It's because my day rate is already, extremely high. Um, But if you're doing like the average or whatever, then definitely charge. I absolutely agree. Anyhow, so how should an artist start? Well, for example, say I'm on. This is how I do the research, okay? And usually, this is regarding creature design, character design, something like that. So if it's an animated project, or let's say if it's a live action project, I start doing the research by reading the script. I would take down notes about any pages that describe the creature visually, and I would say what that visual note was, and I'd say what page it's on. I would also write down any key scenes where it feels like it's something that could be a very kind of special piece that you might want to paint to help get uh, the design approved. A lot of times, when a director or art director can see uh, that scene, then it makes it a lot easier for them to go, okay, yeah, that's right. I like the feeling of that. Okay. Uh, Now, after that, what I also want to do is look for reference for um, the character itself. Costumes would be another group of reference. Uh, the character, perhaps, not how the character would look, but how they behave. So maybe I'm thinking Danny DeVito for this troll or whatever. Sorry, Danny. But you know what I mean? Like thinking of who would be a great actor to play this role. And then I would also look for a batch of reference for the cinematography. What kind of lighting? Because lighting is going to show mood very well, and I love doing lighting, so I have a bunch of reference on the lighting. I have all of these in different kind of groups of photos, and then now I use Pure Ref. It's called Pure Ref. So
Hmm.
PUREREF. That's a free program online. Okay, you can download it, and what it does is you can actually, why don't I why don't I put something on here and show you exactly what it does.
Cool.
Okay, let's do this. So I have my Pure Ref on here, and you can see my video kind of ghostly in the back. Okay, and you can move stuff around, right? You can zoom in and out, and you can zoom in and out of a ton of different images, right? You see all these different images here. Well, I can find the one that I like and go, oh yeah, that's the one I like. I'm gonna zoom into that. You can see the great Michael Kutch's painting here. Terrell Whitlatch, I believe, is right there. I forget.
Wow.
No, actually, is that Terrell? I don't know. But yeah, you can group all of these different groups of things. This is just more like an inspiration board. And then I would just zoom into the ones that I like or whatever, and then zoom back out and then go back in.
That's so cool. So is that piece of software that you use while you're using Photoshop? And are these references for like one project, or is this like a big bulk
Th-
reference thing that you keep up all the time?
this is so I was doing a little drawing for some friends, and that's, you know, I was just trying to get some ideas. I didn't have any ideas. So what I did was you know how you have your folders of just reference garbage that you have just
Yeah.
laying around. I just grabbed every image in there. I just plopped it into Pure Ref,
Wow.
right? And then I just kind of easily searched for the things that I liked.
That's so cool. I've had so many folders like that that if something could automate it, I would use the reference more. So
Yeah, I
I
hope
will
people
pick
use
that up.
that. Definitely. It's such a good, such an awesome tool.
And I think it's free from what I
It's
see.
absolutely free. It's
Awesome.
absolutely free. So
We like free. We all like free.
right on. Get on it, everybody.
Thank you, Bobby.
Um, you're welcome.
Cool. Do you want to go to another question?
Yeah, we've been
All
on that
right.
for quite a while.
Well, there's a little technical question here from someone anonymously. They just signed up for your course and got confused about pen pressure. The question is, do you use pen pressure for opacity as well as for flow when you're painting?
So if I'm doing something that involves very soft transitions, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like clouds or maybe a silky fabric or something like that, then yes. If I don't need that much, um, and I want something a little bit more textural, like you want to see a little bit of that texture there, then I would just use flow controlled by my pen pressure. Opacity is at 100% the whole entire time. Or if I want to do something um, that I want to have a very even kind of tone to, but not completely even. So in other words, something maybe like a car, you know, where you have these very even feeling tones, but then they transition very seamlessly to another tone, um, and everything feels very clean and even. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but then I use uh, what Craig Mullins uses because I took his class. You know, I took his class and he started showing how he uses his brushes, and he doesn't use uh, size with pressure sensitivity. So his brush size does not change,
Oh.
right? So I'll use that as well now.
Hmm.
Those are like my three major ones. And then textural brushes, that's a whole nother story.
Whole other ball game.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Bobby. Let's see. Mateo asks, what advice can you give for people who are looking for freelance jobs but actually don't really know how to sell themselves?
Right. If you're bad at, you know, selling yourself and stuff like that, you're bad at talking, let the art do the talking. Do the projects that you really want to do, you know, and and just start posting them. So, for example, you really want to work on Star Wars. What's the episode? What's the episode of Star Wars that you would love to see?
Mm,
Where are the Ewoks at? You know, we saw
yeah.
them a long time ago. Where are they at? I don't know, something like that. Or where do all these Darth people come from? You know, like I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
sure a
you
lot.
could.
Where do Yodas come from?
Mm, yeah, you build a whole universe around that. A whole, that stuff that's sitting out there waiting to be imagined by somebody. It's great.
Yeah, and I I walk the talk too. You know, so this is not stuff that I'm just theorizing. These are
Hmm.
things that I've done. I wanted a TV show. I want to create a story and put it out there and make it into a TV show or a movie. You know, and so Nico and the Sword of Light, that's a TV show that I created with my friends and it's going to season 2. You know, a lot of things that pretty much hopefully everything I talk about are things that I actually did.
Mm,
So there you go.
that's great. Yeah, and it's important to keep working on that stuff like it's real. Like when I'm writing something or when I'm putting together sketches, I'm thinking in that same terms. Like what if one day you came out with something that was the next Harry Potter? Like you don't work on it as though it's just you fooling around. Like, J.K. Rowling wrote something that could be epic. That's why it became epic, I feel. So it's just a great piece of advice to work like that.
Yeah, another
Uh,
thing to think about, well, that I was just thinking about is like Lightbox Expo. You
mm-hmm,
know, if I just went around to people in big studios and such and said, I'm thinking of doing this thing. What do you think if I did it? You know, would you
mm,
come along? This and that. No, I don't believe that that would have worked very well at all. I think the main thing that has, that's given it so much momentum is the fact that I'm going to do it anyways. You
mm-hmm.
know, it's like, come join me, come hop on board. And when people realize that, then they're like, oh, shoot, okay, yeah, I do want to hop on board.
And that's and you're not even selling at that point. Like, if since the original question was worried about selling yourself, kind of, you don't have to sell yourself when you're walking the talk.
Hmm. That's the wonderful thing about art, isn't it? That
Yeah,
you don't actually have to sell yourself. Of course, it helps if you're a good salesperson in pretty much anything,
yeah,
but if you're not good at talking and you're just good at drawing, you're still going to be totally fine.
totally. So true. All right, let's ask another question here. Anonymous asks, have you ever thought about having a stream with Marco Bucci or Pascal Campaign? And thanks for making schoolism.
Yeah, Pascal Campion and Marco Bucci, I love those two. I've asked Pascal before. He's always busy. I'm not sure if I asked Marco before as well, but he's definitely on my list. It's a big list. There's a lot of really amazing artists out there. Definitely want to get to you, Marco. So look out for me. I just right now I am, once I get the time, really, that's the only thing stopping me. I love both of these guys. They're both uber talented.
I mean, logistically, it's got to be really difficult to get those guys, and especially lining up with your schedule. Like, I feel like we're just lucky that you can have the stream for us as often as you do. And then you're posting two artists a week almost, or at least an artist a week, it feels like, on the YouTube channel. And that's awesome content. So I'll speak for everybody and say we appreciate it. So thanks,
Oh,
Bobby.
thanks,
Yeah,
Matt.
it's got to be a lot of work
It's
for him.
two videos a week, every Monday and Thursday. And
That's a
with
lot.
the stream, it makes it three. So
Hmm.
yeah, doing a bunch of stuff. Um, yeah.
Yeah. For anybody out there who's like just thinking about doing little painting demo videos on YouTube and you feel like it's too much work or something like that, you just take a look at Bobby and know that you can do it. You can do your painting demo video if Bobby can pull this off. Let's do another question here. Anonymous says, how do you study anatomy effectively?
So I've heard of a couple different ways, and then I'm my own. Okay, so um, best way for me was get an anatomy book, bring it with you to life drawing, where
Mm,
you're drawing for the model, and you have this anatomy book, right? And have kind of like a focus in mind. What are you gonna really want to improve on this week? And start to really hone in and study that thing in life drawing class. Then, what you also want to do is um, you want to take photos. Like, say it's the forearm, right? And you're really studying that forearm in life drawing. Then you go to photos of forearms and using the anatomy book again, try to try to look at and try to decipher where each of those muscles are in that anatomy book on that photo, right? So you're translating the stuff from the textbook into, uh, a still image of life. And you want to get different types of body shapes as well, body types. The big hulking superhero guys to the old ladies with very, very thin muscles, um, to the little kids, to everything, to truly understand it. Uh, And then look at really great interpretations of artists that really love anatomy. How did they depict anatomy,
Mm.
right? And then one last one was from Robert Valley. He's an incredible Oscar nominee, animator, artist extraordinaire. He would take his life drawings back in the day when he was a student. He would take them home and he'd try to rotate them, right? Then
Mm.
you got to really understand anatomy if you're rotating life drawings.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
So there you go. That was a good question.
That's a good tip. Um, Anonymous asks, I'm very curious as to what setup is present in a professional studios in terms of hardware you draw on, and if it actually helps your efficiency.
Um, well, there's a lot of different setups as well, right?
Yeah.
My setup, I know like Paul Lazane, he has a 3 monitor setup, so he has a monitor just for his tools, right?
Wow.
So if he still paints the same way that he painted when he explained it to me, one monitor is strictly just the painting. There is nothing else on there.
Hmm.
There's no toolbars or nothing. All of his toolbars are on a separate monitor. So it's kind of like you have your palette and then you have your painting.
Okay.
And I believe the last monitor is for reference. Not totally certain of that. For me, I have my Cintiq and I have a secondary monitor. I do wish I had a third monitor for some reason. I don't even know what I'd use it for, but yeah, that I would like that. Um,
Yeah.
what kind of hardware do I draw on? I draw on a Wacom Cintiq ever since college, getting out of college. I actually won
Yeah.
a art contest for my very first Cintiq, Matt.
Really?
Yeah, and that's what really got me started in my freelance. Because back then, a Cintiq monitor was over $5,000.
Had to be. Had to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still, and it comes in all shapes and sizes because I purchased a poor man's Cintiq at one point, kind of an off brand, and I stopped using it and I went back to my Intuos 3. I've had the same Intuos 3 tablet since 2007, and my paintings continue to get better, and I don't use a different tool. I recently purchased a $100 highly reviewed tablet that was wireless, but I haven't really even used it yet. I like my Intuos, so it's a good bare bone setup, but it works.
Yeah, Craig Mullins didn't even use a tablet until the 2000s.
What?
Yeah, yeah.
What? Wow.
He was using a mouse to do his epic paintings.
Oh my
That's pretty
goodness.
incredible.
That is incredible. All right, let's see another question here. What do you do when your art is objectively not good enough? Like you post a lot, but you're very aware of your flaws and you want to overcome them.
Hone in. Hone in on,
Mm.
one little problem at a time and really conquer that little problem. So if it's like you're not good at hands, okay, yeah, you could do that, but if your hands keep not working too well, then just focus on like a part of the hand and start to
Mm.
understand the thumb. Like, what's the deal with the thumb? How come it's not with the rest of the group? You know,
Yeah,
why does it work all funny? Why do you why can you make such like weird extra little movements that you can't do with your other fingers? Yeah.
that's
Uh,
so true. I feel like I've seen a lot of tutorials that, or and even classic training manuals that talk about like the hand as a glove. Like don't get bogged down in the fingers. Just kind of draw it like a big flap and figure out if you can understand the flap, then you can understand the fingers inside. Just to go with your example, it's kind of like simplifying things. Is that uh, yeah, you've talked about this a lot before where you break things down a lot when you're trying to learn, right?
yeah, the way that I work is very methodical, very strategic.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if something's not working, then I'll dive in deeper and go, okay, well, what part isn't working the most? And let me try to get on that part. And do I need another part to be fixed before I can get on this part, and so on and
Yeah.
so forth, and be like really methodical with it. It's kind of like um, it's kind of like muscles. You know, sometimes if your body isn't working too well, you can't get certain muscles to get strong because
Hmm.
those muscles aren't even working properly to begin with. It's some other muscles that are straining and trying to make that movement that shouldn't even be, and therefore your arm maybe gets worse and worse and
Mm-hmm.
actually doesn't get stronger.
Well, and that leads us to another question I'd like to ask you that seems very popular right now. Someone had to stop drawing due to an injury, and now they can't draw the way they used to, and trying to retrain and feeling overwhelmed. Do you have any advice on where to start?
I I feel for these kind of questions so much because
Mm-hmm.
I've been there, and I still go through it a bit. I still have a bit of arm problems, but everything is getting better. And the thing that I did, cuz this is the thing, I didn't have a typical arm problem. My arm problem stemmed from a cracked rib when I was, 21.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I was on a skiing trip with some friends, and they're going down these hills, and they know how to ski a lot better than me. And I'm like, what does black diamond mean? Does that mean like it's a difficult hill because this looks like a difficult hill? And they're like, no, no, it's all the same. And we start going down, and I lose control, and before you know it, I'm up in the air, and I land on my uh, ski pole,
Oh,
and it hurt so bad, and I had trouble breathing for like few weeks or something like that. And yeah, apparently it was a cracked rib. Anyways, body cinched up, all the muscles around that area to help protect, right? And like I was just saying, then all of a sudden, certain movements should be activating certain muscles, but it wasn't for me, right? It was the wrong muscles activating to do certain movements, which made other muscles uh, atrophy perhaps a bit, or um, some muscles get too strained because they're not
mm,
meant to do all those movements and such so chronically, things like that. That's how a lot of this stuff kind of went bad. So anyways, my whole entire point of all this is everybody gave me advice. Oh, do this stretch, do that stretch, this is what you need, this is what you need, not knowing that all the problems stemmed from this like cracked rib like almost 20 years ago now, right? They
wow.
were just thinking about the problems in my arm, and the problems in my arm, they stemmed from another injury. It's just that when the problems reach the surface, it might not be coming from my ribs anymore, right? It came from my arm.
Mm-hmm.
So do investigation. Long answer, but I think it's important to kind of tell these examples. Do your investigation. That's what I feel physio has done for me. Physiotherapy is all about the detective work on what is going wrong, and it's not going to be easy because it's like untangling a whole bunch of knots. For me, anyways, in my situation. Hopefully, it's simpler for you.
What about the idea that this person's retraining themselves as an artist and feeling overwhelmed? Any advice on that?
If you feel overwhelmed, just take a class. That's
Mm,
what, yeah, because then you don't have to worry about a lot of other stuff. All you need to kind of concern yourself with is the requirements for the assignment.
yeah.
Instead of like, oh, this painting isn't looking good, this isn't, this idea, I don't like it, whatever. Uh, when I just start, this painting that you guys are seeing right now is because I was in a rut. I just started taking this class with Cody Gramstad,
Hmm.
and I just did the assignments. And I felt good about it because when I'm done, I'm like, yeah, I painted a little head. That's great on a can, you know? Awesome. Would I be satisfied with that normally? No. So, yeah, I would say take a class if you feel overwhelmed. And if your arm hurts, I wouldn't just retrain myself to, like, I don't think this person's saying this, but I wouldn't retrain myself to use my left arm or something like that.
Right,
I
right.
would go straight to like detective work. Why is it hurting? All that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Go to physiotherapy. And then I use that information to go to other doctors like um, acupuncturists, uh, massage therapists, and stuff like that, and start to share the stuff that the physio was telling me. And that's how I got all my stuff fixed.
That's so interesting. It takes a lot of your own work to get there. You know, you can't just show up at the doctor, right? And again, not that that's what that person was saying, but that's interesting. Let's ask another question here. Anik asks, what do you think is the right time and the essentials that's necessary for making your own animation film? I'm willing to take the journey. Thank you for the question, Anik.
Right on, Anik. Well, what do you think is the right time and essentials that's necessary to go on make
Making your own animation.
what time? Any time is the right time. Right
Yeah.
now is the right time. That was like one of the advice for students. Just go and start doing it now.
Yeah.
Um, that doesn't mean that you have to go full force right now because, say, you have a job that's paying for your mom's medical bills. Don't quit. Think logically, but you can do a little something right now, is what I'm saying. You could
Mm-hmm.
start right now. And a lot of times we kind of forget the power of 10 minutes, the power of 15 minutes. If you actually clock yourself 10 minutes, okay, I'm just going to draw for myself, you actually get quite a bit done.
Right.
Or you can, anyways. You can. Um, so, yeah, start now. Think about what your own animated film would be. And generally, how I did it was I went from the end to the beginning, right? Like, you don't want to think about the next step after that, the next step after that. The easier way is to concentrate on what the end is. What does that look like to you? What would you want it to look like? And start going backwards, right? Just like one of those mazes in the newspaper. If you start at the finish line and you try to find your way to the beginning of the maze, it's way easier.
Yeah. Absolutely. And um, just having a good story. Like, there's so many crude ways to get into animation too, right? Like from flip book animation to storyboarding a little bit. You know, that kind of. I think that's like the beginning stages of animation is getting a good story lined up, but then at the same time, you know, you don't have to have Maya 3D to do something cool with what little tools you might have. I think there's all those storytelling skills to work on.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. Yeah. Uh, let's ask another one. Oh, another artist guest request. Nico Martlet. Uh,
Nico Marley, yeah. Are you
Marley. Sorry.
sorry? Yeah, I interrupted you. Are you
No,
planning on
no, I
having
mispronounced the name. Sorry.
right? Are
Yeah.
you planning on having Nico Marley on character design class on Schoolism? I would love to. I would love to.
Yeah.
For me, like I'm a huge Nico Marley fan for sure. Of course, we have some of his pieces actually in the studio.
Oh, cool.
Um, he designed How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda, uh, a lot of stuff. If he's up for it, I'm definitely excited. But some people are not interested in teaching, and I feel like he's not that interested in teaching. That's how I kind of feel.
I think I know a lot of artists that I feel like are really really good at what they do, but teaching just isn't their thing as much. You know, it's two very different things. Just because you're great at it doesn't mean number one that you would be good teaching, and number two that you would like teaching. Right? Like you have all three. You're good at it and you like it, and your artwork shows it. Right? I mean, not everybody's cut out for it, I guess.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, that's cool.
I definitely enjoy it for
All
sure.
right. Aldana asks, "Hi, Bobby and Matt. I want to start freelancing, but I don't know where to start. Any tips on how to get hired online?"
What is your brand,
Hmm.
Aldana? uh, because you want to. Again, it's kind of like thinking about it from the finish line to the beginning. So you have this person that is looking online and sees you and goes, perfect. Why did they do that? If you had, if you really picture it, there's this person looking for somebody online, they find you and they go, perfect. Is it because you had everything? You're like you're like the Wikipedia of art. Like, it was probably because it, this is exactly how it is for me. I look at a person's art, I go, yeah, they can do that. Well, how much of their art is about that? If it's just a tiny little section, if it's like 1/5 of their portfolio is that, then I'm not totally thinking them.
Interesting.
Yeah. But if it's most of their stuff or a big chunk of their stuff, they have a whole section for, medieval frogs. I don't know. What's a medieval frog? But yeah, these frogs in knight armor and stuff like that. And I'm doing something like that, then for sure you're in. Now, you're probably like, well, that sounds kind of stupid because what if nobody's making a medieval frog movie? Right? So think of it like this: you build that portfolio of whatever that thing is, and that's kind of like one book. Now you work on another book, another portfolio. And you have these sections of your portfolio and just keep growing these big sections. Because if you have 50 sections, right, and they go into one section, and that one section is the only one with the medieval frogs, and there's all sorts of medieval frogs here. There's the knight frogs, there's the king frogs, there's the jester frogs, the peasant frogs, the nobleman frogs, and all this stuff. You're gonna get hired,
Yeah.
even if only 5% of your portfolio was of medieval frogs. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. It's another example of you where you are walking the talk as well. That's what a lot of your art books have been like, from dragon sketches to water worlds, all the way up to unusual unicorns, right? Those are very specific, but that's how you really highlighted your abilities there.
That's
That's
a
that's the
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a super good point. Like that's exactly how we did it in the beginning. We would put
Mm-hmm.
out these sketchbooks and each one was themed. And so many times a director would call us up or whatever. Yeah, I have on here on my desk your Dragon Sketches book. Or I have on here on my desk your Ancient Japan sketches.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing this ancient Japan, whatever, film and this and that. Happened so much, and it still
Wow.
happens.
And if you had had a book that had a little bit of Japan, a little bit of dragons, a little bit of sea creatures, probably wouldn't have had the same impact, even with the same artwork, as
I
having a
doubt it.
collection like that. That's a very interesting way to look at rearranging your thought process for your portfolio. I like that a lot. It's a
Yeah,
good
you
tip.
got to kind of think about it in the kind of like um, the end result. The end
Mm.
result that you want to see is not a person with a whole mishmash of your stuff and they're only interested in a part of it. Uh, the end result is hopefully they have this book in their hand or like a collection of your art uh, that's that topic, and they're like, perfect.
That's awesome. That's just reverse engineering how the hiring process works too. Very important.
Right on.
Um, let's
You
see.
want to do one last question?
Oh yeah, time flies, doesn't it? Okay. Let's see. This is a good one. It's the third one on the list. I like this question a lot. How to come up with my own personal stuff and not just create things that have already been created, from Anonymous.
Ooh, how to come up with your
Mm-hmm.
own personal stuff. Um, I was in FMX Stuttgart, Germany, at this awesome event called FMX, and we're talking a bit about honesty in your work. Have you heard of that where people say, yeah, you want to make sure that the work is honest? Have you heard of that, Matt?
I've heard that before. Yeah, I
Especially in
don't exactly know how to
stories.
take it. Yeah.
Especially in stories. Here's a great example. I think I might have mentioned this before, but Paul Briggs, he's a director at Disney. He was also head of story on Frozen and so on and so forth. He was mentioning something where it was like he was talking to somebody about some project he did a long time ago or something like that, and there was a dying scene, and there is the loved one and the person dying,
Mm.
and talking about storyboarding it out. And then one of his story artists said, "No, the scene should be the loved one holding the dying person's hand, touching them on their head, things like that, because that's what you would want to feel. And that's what you would want your dying loved one to feel when they're dying." And it gave me shivers as he was saying that, because you can tell it came from an honest place. It came from some sort of like real life personal experience. So, the
Mm.
best way to come up with your own personal stuff is actually to have it come from an honest place. And to have something to come from an honest place while still being engaging and interesting, I think, is to go out there and experience life. We're always experiencing life, but if you don't go out there and experience some shit, you will not have anything to paint and draw that people will be really interested in for the most part, I think. You know what?
Mm.
I'm sure there's other ways, but the stuff that is truly original, my own stuff, anyways, always comes from some sort of real experience that I had. Even if it's a bunch of creatures, even if it's a bunch of creatures. I had this one painting where it's like two creatures. They're they're just kind of holding each other, and they have these big kind of mushroom kind of heads, and it's raining, right? And it's just like, it's called shelter, because their
Mm-hmm.
heads were like sheltering each other. And that came from an experience. I was in Paris painting with Kay, and it was raining outside. And just the whole mood of it all and everything really inspired that painting. So the painting came from a real honest place, and was one of the
Oh,
first paintings to sell.
that's a really good story.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, and you know what? That's the end of today's stream. So definitely
Great.
remember to like this video, like the video, because I never ask people to like the video. If you do like these streams, like the video, please. And then don't forget to get on the Schoolism subscription. Less than a week to go, and it'll last you for an entire year of education. So there you go, everybody. And of course, thank you to my co host, Matt Johnson.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for the great questions.
Awesome. All right, take care, everyone. Now, a huge part of the success of this channel and everything that I do is because of you, the listener. So thank you. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and then press the notification button, because that way you'll get instant notification the next time I put out a new video. Thank you very much.